Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Real Talks. I'm your host, David Steele, and I have a special guest today. So, special guest, let's introduce yourself to everybody, please.
Hi, I'm Tyler Cobaugh. I've been a good friend of David's for the last couple months, and it's been nice. Glad to have me on. Thank you.
Thank you. So, the reason why I'm bringing Tyler on is because we have a new juicy development in the whole Alec Baldwin Rust situation, and Tyler is privileged enough to work in the industry, and I wanted to actually have a little bit of insight onto what goes on a set and how this could have happened and maybe change in the future. So, anyways, once again, welcome. And uh, so first and foremost, tell everybody, give us a little bit of background on what you do, Tyler, and how
All right,
long you've been doing it and all that good stuff.
of course. So, I have been working in Atlanta for the last 6 years. March 17th, it will be my 6 years working in the film industry. And what I do on set is I am a production assistant. So, I work with what is called an assistant director team. Assistant directors are literally right underneath the DP and the director. And the first AD is right underneath the director and DP, first AD, first assistant director. Then there are second assistant directors, and then there's a second AD who really is helping with the logistics behind the scenes about scheduling and everything else and working on the call sheet, which is what everybody gets at the end of the day. And me, we're below the second AD and the second. And what we do is basically if they whatever needs to get done on set, we're there to help facilitate and help out. So a lot of what we do is help out with what we call lockups. So we are making sure sorry that if we're filming, say, in this room that I'm in, we would have somebody on the edge of camera that way, making sure people aren't walking in, and on the camera that way, making sure people aren't walking in frame. And we're also there to make sure that people are aware of what is going on. And that will come into play when we start talking about um, the Rust incident because it it was a failure. There's fail safes. There are multiple fail safes on set that prevent what happened to Elena and what happened to the director and the what happened to the director and what happened to Elena. There are there are multiple fail safes on set that prevent that very incident from happening. So, yeah, I basically help out with whatever needs to help out. And I'm also there for safety as well to make sure people are aware of what's going on. I can't hear you, David. Oh shit. I think you're muted.
And that's the most important thing. So, um, when they're on shoots, we have. I mean, listen, we always hear about these shoots and these accidents that occur, and there are things that happen. But that's why we have stunt coordinators that we have. I mean, just one that was introduced, a couple of years ago was an intimacy, coordinator and everything else. So this kind of incident. Now, there were a lot of factors that went into this. Okay, first and foremost, this was a low budget um, production. Okay, and so that being said, it was more of a you know cutting corners type of thing. And so um, at that point, what ends up happening is when you have a low budget production, okay, and you're trying to cut corners and you're trying to do this and you're trying to do that, mistakes are made. And when mistakes are made, then it's okay, how do we correct them? I mean, listen, we have always heard about big budget accidents, right? We've heard of like Letitia Wright getting injured in Black Panther, Wakanda Forever, when Tom Cruise broke his ankle in Mission Impossible. Those things happen. But when somebody dies on set, and that's what we're going to get to in a couple minutes, it's really for lack of a better word, a tragedy. So this all started, and so let me digress. So this started back, um, I would, I, so this
It,
started about over a year ago.
mhm.
And so what ended up happening was Alec Baldwin, whom we all, know and love from like, Saturday Night Live and 30 Rock and everything else. He was supposed to be in a Western. And this Western was supposed to be called Rust. And there are, in any Western, okay, that I've ever seen, there are guns. Now, there is something called an armory. Now, this armory is basically there to ensure that it's a safety protocol. And then you have a fail safe and everything else. So what ended up happening to Alec Baldwin was there were live rounds put there was somehow live rounds, some way live rounds ended up getting on this set. And when this happened, nobody checked and nobody did what they had to do. And so what ended up happening was there was somebody that died on the set, and the gun discharged and it killed one of the uh, one of the crew, and it directed and injured the director as well. Now, you know, so 5 live rounds were mixed in with the dummy rounds, and so there was a huge investigation. OSHA, New Mexico, OSHA came in. They are the occupational safety hazard, for the state. And so what ended up happening was, um, not there weren't any criminal charges filed until now. So yesterday, okay, Alec Baldwin and mainly Alec Baldwin. We're just going to say, but Alec Baldwin in general was charged with involuntary manslaughter. And so this leads to a bunch of questions. Number one, how does this happen? Number two, what could be prevented from this happening again? And number three, how does this change cinema? And how does this change movies? So, this is why we brought Tyler on for his expertise. So, Tyler, number one, do you think there should have been charges levied against Alec Baldwin? Number two, how do we change this moving forward? And number three, do you think this could actually change the way we look at cinema today?
So yes, I do think there should have I think they made the right decision because incompetence goes a long way. And the armorer, that's what they're called, armorers, who are the ones that handle the gun and make sure it's cleared, like they clear it, making sure it's cleared after they go and shoot a gun and they hand it off after a scene is over. They're the ones that go and clear the gun and make sure the gun is safe. And yeah, I really do think, and I think I also heard that there might be charges brought up against the armor as well in this incident. And what was the second question, David?
So, basically, now that this has happened, how do you think this is going to change cinema or movies moving forward?
Here's the thing. This is so the only other time that this has happened, I believe, and I've talked to my armor friends as well about this, was the David Lee incident in on the Crow set. And that set the precedent for what we are in today with regards to on-set safety with guns. And here, the thing about that was, it is a 1 in a million chance. Now, I don't. That's not maybe the correct like percentage, but this never happens on set. Never. Because of the fact we have rules that prevent this from happening. The, it will change things. I think there will be times when we will go to just um using like using plastic or rubber guns. And I was talking to one of my director friends about this as well, and he told me that a lot of the times that he does any of that, what they would do is they would load up a green screen and they would shoot against the green screen and not at anybody. So there are ways that they on set that they make it safe. And I think the biggest part about this will be the incompetence of those involved because somebody didn't do their job. And literally, when I'm on set, the armorer and the second unit coordinator, whoever's part of that scene, will say, if anybody wants to take a look at this gun and make sure uh, it's checked, please come and do so. Anybody can do that. And I it's a lot of incompetence, unfortunately, that happened here. And I was literally, as I said, I was talking to my director friend who was telling me about the different things that he has done in the past with guns to film guns. There's ways to do it. And he was telling me, um, he said the same thing. He's like, yes, he should be charged because you, as an actor, are responsible. The guns that we use on set are actual guns. They have a filed clip, they have a filed firing charge, and they're using blanks. But they are, and always, everybody on set sees that weapon as a live weapon because of you have to have reverence for the weapon that you're using.
Um, so question. I mean, let's face it. This is a low budget production.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So this isn't like a Mission Impossible where they're spending $250 million and everything else. I guess the question is this at the end of the day, from where I'm looking at it, they found live rounds on the set. Now, live rounds are a complete no no. I think what you've got to ask is how are they how do how do live rounds get on the set? Because that is to me, you have to figure out who brought the live rounds on the set, and that person should never work again. Period. Because they've proven that they can endanger anybody's life that is using a gun. Um, that being said, do you think that moving forward, um, do you think this is going to change how we view movies?
I don't think it will. There's always there's always the question of on-set safety and the working hours that we have to do. I work, no joke, the most I've ever worked on one day on a TV show was 18 and a half hours. And there's always, and I think you're going to start to see a shifting of the tide. There needs to be more of a focus on onset safety. And yeah, you don't ever see this happen. Never. You never see this happen. The only other time that this has happened was, as I said, on The Crow in 1994. And then onset safety rules were changed for that. Now, I don't know what the new changes could be, but no, I don't think it's going to change how we view cinema. But I think even for me, it's like, okay, like anybody could have been the one to check that weapon. Anybody could have been the one to check that weapon. And also, I've been talking to a lot of my second assistant director friends, and I think what is missing from this narrative is the culpability of the first assistant director who was on that who was on set, because he should have been the one too as well to check and make sure that there wasn't anything in the barrel, there wasn't any live rounds on set. That should have been it. He should have been, the buck stops with him ultimately too. And as I said, there are multiple fail safes. It
Yeah.
There's no new rule. I think there will be more of a tightening of the rules, but 99.99% of the people that I know that work on film sets, mind you, these are mostly majority, as I said, 99.9% of the ones that I work on are union productions. That's also a thing that we also got to have, we got to keep in mind is when you're non-union, the rules get bent in a way that can be very dangerous. Now, I've heard stories about this production company where they have put crew in really dicey situations, um, even on a film right before this one was shooting. And I think there needs to be a focus on that part of it as well, because I none of my friends, none of the people that I have worked with have I've never felt unsafe working on a set, being by a set when they're doing the second unit where they're shooting guns and doing all that. And I think that's a big part of it as well, is I've never felt unsafe on set. So,
Yeah, no, I think there's a lot of culpability to go around here. I think there's a lot of culpability. I think it's I think you're right. The first AD has some, you know, um, I think, obviously the armor, the person who's handling this. I think that, and you're right about another thing too, Tyler. This is a freak thing. I mean, and as I said before, there have been accidents, whether it's the Crow with Brandon Lee, whether it's, Letitia Wright, even though, she didn't die, it was a serious tragedy, or, event. I'm thinking of the helicopter crash for the Twilight Zone back in, I think, like 1981, that movie. I mean, these are, unfortunately, what ends up happening is this is what the film is remembered by. Now, how they ended up resolving all of this, and okay, so
yeah,
a
yeah,
couple other questions. Number one, what did you think about the husband becoming an EP on the movie? Because
yeah.
did you think that was a little like, okay, we're going to throw you a bone type of thing, or was because some EPs, and by the way, an EP is an executive producer, they don't do anything, they're just there. Others are have on a major crew, have um, they have something to do. So what did you think about the decision to make him an EP? And moving forward, how do you think that this is? How do you think this never happens again?
So I think it's a very interesting move that they made him an executive producer on this movie. I do think I can't put I can't put myself in the mindset of the husband, because it is it's unfathomable that you're working on a make believe movie and your wife doesn't come home from that. I, I do think that it is a way to kind of like try and put it under the rug, try and put it under the rug a little bit. And but I do think I do think it's a good thing that he's going to get maybe some financial compensation from being an executive producer on this movie. Um, and how it never happens again is follow the effing rules and hire competent people who understand and respect a firearm, and don't get lazy around a firearm. I think maybe that could have been what happened with Baldwin. Is he didn't check the gun. That's what's been reported. He didn't check the gun. And I get it that you want to trust the people they have around you. But as Ronald Reagan said, trust but verify. He didn't verify the fact that there was something maybe stuck in the gun or it had live ammunition in it. And that is a big problem from this. How does it I think there can be a tightening of the rules to make it more safe, but as I said, the rules have worked up until this point. It's not a repeated problem. And as I said, I think maybe there should be a focus maybe on these non-union shows or more lower budget tier. Like there are different tiers for films, and this could be like a tier 3, which is a way low budget, but still I think it was maybe still under SAG. So there needs to be more oversight on those way low budget films, I think,
Yeah. Yeah. No,
because you don't see this happen. As I said, there's never been a time that I have ever felt like any of the team that I've been a part of has ever put me in harm's way. Now, things go wrong on set. And that's why I always have my head on a swivel. You're
yeah.
always listening to your radio to make sure, hey, what's going on, like to be in the loop and to make sure people are aware. Now, there's some things that you cannot control, but yeah, I don't see I see the tightening of the rules, and I think there should be a better look at some maybe the lower budget films because I, if they cut corners, that's when people die, and I hope there are producers out there that are doing the kinds of films that see that and be like, well, even if they are like they don't care about their crew or they don't care about the process, nobody wants to fucking have another like lawsuit like this on their hands. So maybe that will be an incentive for them to actually give a damn about crew members on their sets.
Yeah, I tend to agree with you. I think the fact is that when you bring him on as an EP, okay, fine. It is what it is. Um, eh, I mean, at the end of the day, there's a couple of things here. Number one, we can all agree it's a tragedy. Number two, the only thing to do is educate. And number three, you know, we just, I hate to say it, but alluded to earlier, this is a once in a million thing. These things don't happen on big budget sets, and so, um, you know, um, it's um, it's one of those things where, I think that, look, they're going to finish this, but there's always going to be that mar over it. There's always going to be that gray cloud over it. Um,
I do
you
think that
know,
they shouldn't finish
and
it. I don't think they should finish it though. I don't think
yeah,
that I think that's a big problem. I think no, but and can you can still hear me, right?
yes,
All right. So there is uh there's a movement going around right now on Atlanta sets that if you go with these producers, you could get blacklisted and from your union if you go with these producers and do that. Um there's a lot of talk that if you do join these guys on any of their films, there is a big possibility if you're found out that you're on that crew. The unions and the union members are pushing that forward. That if that happens, you could be blackballed from the industry and blackballed in the union itself. and nobody would want to work with you.
Wow.
So that's
Wow.
also something too that I think is a great precedent to set, that it's not about the money. Like, you should give a damn about your fellow crew members' lives. And I do think it's a bad idea for them to come back and keep finishing this. Now, everybody says, "Oh, come back." You know, there's all those stories of crew members that have died, and everybody's like, "We gotta finish this. We gotta finish this for so and so." But for the mental health of the crew, I, I don't know who is gonna want to touch this,
Yeah.
because it is quote unquote cursed, quote unquote.
Yeah.
Like,
I'm going to compare
it's
it to something. What you were just talking about psychological, I'm going to compare it to the what happened with on the Bills game the other night.
yeah,
When
yep,
that player, you know, he fell down to the turf, and so we had to, the players were like, "Come out, come out, come out." And so what ended up happening was, and thank God he's okay. You know, um, that was the NFL's worst nightmare, and they didn't know what they were going to do. And so, but to your point, Tyler, psychologically, nobody wanted to go play football. I mean, it's not like this is week one, and I mean, it's. I'm not saying the time would have mattered, but it mattered more. Anybody who's a sports fan knows football and everything else. But they were psychologically not prepared to go back on the field, and so, you know, all we can do is move forward. And by the way, this saga is not over, guys. So let's keep that in mind. He just got charged today or yesterday. I mean, look, at the end of the day, he's probably going to get a slap on the wrist and he's going to be fine. But I think the director and a couple other people, they're probably never going to work in the industry again.